All right, Legs. Well, Nikola Jokic is finally back, and I mean, somehow the Nuggets have survived this stretch without him. 10-6 in these games without Nikola Jokic. It's gone way better, I think, than any of us here locally anticipated. From your perspective, what's kind of been your biggest takeaway from how this team has looked without Jokic in the lineup, and how have they kind of weathered the storm here?
Well, I don't think that, anybody could interpret it other than pretty much max out what you could have done during this stretch without Jokic. I mean, a lot of people were very concerned about how many places they'd fall in the standings while he was out because there was a little bit of uncertainty there at the beginning. To go 10-6 without him and have, not only Jamal Murray play sensational most nuts, but the way that other guys have played during this stretch. And we know they have other guys out. Eventually, they're going to have their whole roster, and there's going to be some adjustments to the rotation and opportunities. But all in all, I think all of this is going to be positive for David Adelman because I think he has discovered things about his team while Jokic was out. More guys forced to play extra minutes, extra opportunities, really stepped up, took advantage of it. That's just going to give them increased depth when they get everybody back. And it's not like you can play everybody every night, but there will still be moments in the regular season when you have guys banged up. Now you got other buttons to push. And then certainly when you get into the playoffs, you might have a night where one of the guys that's gotten increased run during this stretch might have to play really significant minutes in a quarter, in a big moment, a big spot. And I think they're likely to come through now because I think Adelman has found out more about his team. I think they have found out more about each other. So it's just about as successful as you could have expected them to be with Jokic out. And now he comes back. And good thing about incorporating a guy like that better line, I don't think it's too difficult because of his ability to pass the basketball and share it. Everybody gets better when he's on the floor. So he's not like some ISO heavy player that's going to take a bunch of shots. And that's a more difficult kind of guy to incorporate. He comes back in, you pick up where you left off. I was out there because of his ability to facilitate the offense. So everything that happened during this stretch last month, just completely positive for the Nuggets.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for guys that were put into the rotation here and amid all these injuries that have gotten a bunch more playing time, like the Peyton Watsons, the Jalen Pickett's, the Zeke Najee's, even Julian Strawther's gotten some run here with all these injuries. What can that do for those guys' confidence? A guy who's maybe in and out of the rotation a little bit throughout the regular season. Now they've gotten some real tick and some real run and had some success. Going forward, if David Adelman needs to call these guys' numbers down the line in the playoffs, what does having this type of success and, this long of a leash to play with at this point in the season, how can that kind of help these guys later on in the year, do you think?
Well, I just think when you're, a role player maybe and your minutes have been uncertain, there's a little bit of uncertainty, in your own mind even sometimes, like how you're going to play if you get extended minutes. Now that they've got a body of work to lean on, everybody's going to be comfortable when their number gets called, if and when their number gets called, headed down the regular season and through the playoffs. Obviously, the biggest one of all is Peyton Watson, and I know his emerged even before the Jokic injury, particularly some of the things he was able to do with Jokic out. And does that mean that Peyton Watson, once you get Aaron Gordon back and you get Jokic back and you get Bruce Brown back, Christian Brown back, does that mean that he's going to be able to continue to do what he was doing during the stretch? Of course not. There just aren't as many opportunities. But what it does mean is you now have a guy that has shown you that his ceiling is significantly higher as an offensive player than I think anybody really knew. That means you can rely on a guy like Peyton Watson in a big spot in the playoffs, an X factor on a given night. Give me a 20-point game, in a 2-2 series in the first round that, when your team absolutely needs it, maybe on a night when Jamal Murray doesn't shoot well or Jokic is in foul trouble or whatever it may be, you now have a guy that has completely changed what everyone believes his ceiling to be offensively, and his confidence levels through the roof. So getting the opportunity to actually do it rather than just sitting there in your own mind, thinking what you could do if that opportunity, to actually have a track record doing it. Yeah, I mean, you can't really quantify how much that means for guys' confidence.
Watching how Peyton Watson's season has gone here, it's just been wild because, he initially has this, big rise, this big ascension a few weeks ago, 20, 30 points. And we're all like, oh my God, like this guy has leveled up offensively. He's got, way more of a bag. He can do way more stuff individually than we might have thought. And now it's kind of gotten to a point where he's just going out and getting 20 points a game. And we're really not even raising an eyebrow about it. Like that's how much he's leveled up as an offensive guy. He's just getting 20 points really within the flow of the regular offense now. What's your just take on Peyton Watson, and what do you think his ceiling is and potential is? Because he's a guy who, I mean, we thought we had a decent idea of what he could be early in the season. Now I'm just like, can this guy be an all-star level player? I don't know.
I mean, that's a great question. He's 23 years old. So how much he has grown in the last couple of seasons, really even from last year to this, that's really exciting to think about what he could be as a 25 or 26-year-old. And he's got the size and length and physical profile at that position to be able to get shots off over guys. He's a defensive impact player. So I think what you're looking at now, he had 19 points against Brooklyn. And if he gave you 19 points in the game last year, you were thrilled that you got 19 points out of Peyton Watson, right? Because you were primarily focused on his defense, and he wasn't really even looking to score all that much. He became very focused on his assignment on the other end of the floor, and then whatever he got was almost a bonus offensively. Now, he gets 19, and you're thinking wow, he maybe he'd have given you 25, and you're expecting that. It's a great thing to have those added expectations. So, I don't want to put a limitation on what he could be. To say, could he be an all-star? I mean, it's easy to say that, but when you start writing names on paper and you realize how hard it is to make the all-star team, that's tough. So I think maybe a better way to put it is, can he become an all-star caliber forward in this league? And I think he's answering that. His potential might be yes. Very few guys can take their game offensively, where he was at the start of the year, where he was to finish last year, to do what he's done over the last couple of months. It's very difficult to do on the fly. Sometimes that comes in an off season where you start the year and for whatever reason, your role has changed. And now you were 10th man on the bench and now you're man, or you were 7th or 8th and now you're a starter for whatever reason. So going into the season, you already expect to have more opportunities and you get out of the gate quicker. And this is different. Like going into the year, there wasn't much change in his role, what you expected. This is all brought about from opportunity with guys out. And it's like jumping all over it would be an understatement. So he's made himself a lot of money going forward the rest of his career. And I think more importantly, the Denver Nuggets have found another guy that's like really high level wing player that they're going to need going forward.
Yeah. Final one for you. Trade deadline's obviously coming up. I don't expect this to be a very loud trade deadline for the Nuggets. Maybe there's a small move here or there as they try to clean up the salary cap or just address one little need. When you look at this team, and it's tough because all the injuries, you might have a good feel for what this team looks like when fully healthy, but you just haven't seen it a lot this season. From your perspective, if there was maybe one need or one type of role that the Nuggets should look to fill or just should look to get some depth in, where would that kind of be at the trade deadline?
Well, I mean, I think, one of the things we talked about with this team, and I don't think it's any different now, is an additional sort of playmaker, handler, creative guy. Mm-hmm. Even Russell Westbrook filled that role, for most of last year pretty well. And then had some issues, down the stretch and in the playoffs. But I mean, that role was there to be filled. Russell Westbrook filled that. When you look at their team, they don't have a lot of creativity with the ball outside of Jokic and Murray. But at the same time, I don't know if you need it or not. I mean, honestly, if you've got those two guys and Jokic, for all intents and purposes, playing point guard a lot of the time he's out there, and certainly the chief facilitator, I don't know if you need – you answered some of your needs in the offseason with additional shooting, sort of a utility knife player coming back in Bruce Brown. You added size up front, when serviceable, backup center that Jokic has played with. So you already sort of check those boxes. And by the way, in a lot of ways, you added Peyton Watson to the mix.
Right.
At least this version of him. So you think about how much they've already added. It's difficult. That guard spot, another guy run ball screen or have some creativity with Jokic or if they're both out of the game, another guy that can sort of facilitate ball screen, get downhill, that knows how to play the position and find people, but it's also a threat to score. Yeah, that's great. I mean, a lot of teams want that. And so if you have a guy that could do that, it's hard to give him up. So I think they're in a great position. What they just did while Jokic was out should absolutely give them even more confidence that they legitimately, are a threat in the West, that they could possibly get to the finals or win the whole thing. Like, they should be thinking that is end game. That is their goal. So I don't know that you need to add anything. Just get these guys back and give them some continuity with their entire roster, and give David Adelman time to figure out how he wants to utilize that rotation, and what does he do with the extra depth that he's got, because everybody's going to be able to play. These are things they've got to now work out as they start to incorporate guys back into the lineup. That, to me, is really all they should be focused on. I don't know that they need another piece, because they've already got so many that can fill roles on this team.
I think that's well said. Should be a really exciting couple weeks as Nuggets get all these pieces back and everybody healthy. Legs, appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. You got it. Anytime.